Hello, Father Christopher here from Most Precious Blood. There was a Japanese tourist who was taking a tour of all the beautiful churches in Italy. An Italian tour guide is taking him through the Tuscan hills as they're going from one church to another. And as they're going in their Fiat Cinquecento, sailing through those beautiful sunflower-filled fields, and they arrive at another church. They go in, and from the heat outside, they're plunged into the cold, damp darkness. Beads of sweat form over their body as they go in from that bright sun, humid day, and they go into the cold, dark church. It takes a while for their eyes to adjust, and as their eyes adjust, the tour guide begins his little patois and goes around from one work of art, from one thing of beauty to the other, pointing them out and giving the facts. The Japanese tourist, meanwhile, is completely transfixed and glued to the spot where he entered the church because there is a life-size crucifix. Upon a cross, there is a man who is dead, his arms stretched out. He's covered in blood. He's going green because he's been dead for so long. Flies are beginning to land on his body and around his wounds of his head. The blood is congealed on his brow. The Japanese tourist has never seen the like. He looks and stares in absolute and complete amazement. And as he stares at this crucifix, he is unable to move. He is completely transfixed. Meanwhile, the Italian guide goes around the church and pointing out some frescoes by Fra Angelica, a bit of work by Bernini, and perhaps Botticelli did this in his time. He becomes aware that the Japanese tourist is not with him, and he's talking to himself. He looks over his shoulder and looks for where the Japanese tourist has ended up, and he sees him still at the door of the church, unable to move from this extraordinary sight of a dead man hanging on a cross. He comes over and looks inquisitively why he's not following him and listening to what he has to say. The Japanese tourist, still staring at the dead Christ, his eyes wide, his mouth open, and he points questioningly with his left hand. And as he points up to the figure of the dead Christ, the Italian tour guide looks and sees what he's looking at and says, "Oh yes, 15th century, probably Spanish." Happy Lent.